It's 11:15 on a Tuesday, and before we get into the Midnight Bible with Bible Donkey, I thought I'd share about a couple of things that, I'm excited about. So, I think I've talked before about dreams, and at least as far back as after I got saved when I was 13, I've been having these dreams about my own future. And even when I was very young, I used to love sleeping, because in sleep I can dream. And I also used to like to squish myself into confined spaces to sleep. I didn't understand back then that I had a pretty bad childhood, but the signs were there. But I went to visit a friend's house and brought my kids, and this is a woman who has adopted my kids as her own grandkids, and she's worthy. And I can't tell you how happy that makes me, because the only criteria I have for the people that I let be a part of my kids' life is that they be worthy, that they'll treat them right. But anyway, we all stayed the night at a friend's house, and I wasn't sleeping super well because I'm allergic to everything, and I didn't take my melatonin. I usually take a melatonin pill around bedtime that just helps me drift off. And between the allergies and just a new place, and my boy was there with me talking to me for a while, and then he was gone because he knows how to fall right to sleep. And I just kind of had a little bit of a fitful sleep, but it was enough. It was adequate. And I ended up having a vivid dream. And this one I think was from the Lord. So I do have these dreams and visions where if I'm in a flow state or if I'm sleeping, I'll just experience my own future ahead of time, and it always happens exactly the way. It's like I'm there, in my mind before the event. And nothing is different. It's exactly, people say deja vu, but these are people that don't understand, or they're not ready to acknowledge destiny, prophecy. But the Bible's very clear about that. And this was a different kind of dream. This was I think it was from the Lord, because it was two parts of a dream. The first part was I saw a chestnut tree, and I walked under the tree, and under the tree were green chestnut husks with the chestnuts inside them, and they had fallen off the tree before they were ripe. And this is a sign of damage. So when the fruit of a chestnut tree gets damaged, it will drop early, and then it's not really ripe, it's not fully developed. And it's usually because of like a worm getting into it or whatever. So I was squishing open these chestnut husks, and for those of you not familiar, they've got these, spiky outer layer, and then inside is the chestnut. And I think it's a what would you call it? Bifurcated shell. It's got two parts. It opens up, and then there's two seeds inside. Big, hefty chestnuts, ordinarily, except these were not fully developed. They didn't have the deep color, and they looked more like cloves of garlic. Not developed, not ready. They fell before they were mature. And yet I was just gathering up those poorly developed chestnut seeds, breaking them out of the husk, and making plans about how to make them useful, because they might not be perfect, but they're good for something. And I'll figure out what to do with them. So that was the first part of the dream. And then the second part of the dream was like it. I was sitting under a tree with a bucket, and the bucket was full of baby wild animals. So, opossums, squirrels, wild rabbits, mice, and they were all babies that they happened to be in this bucket. And it wasn't my bucket, it was a bucket that I discovered. And so I sat there with the bucket, and I checked out these little babies, and they were healthy. They didn't have any real problems other than they were alone. And so there was a baby squirrel, and it was like checking my finger to see if it was food, and it wasn't really like biting me, but you know how it is. And it had teeth, and it was weaned, but it wasn't ready to live all on its own. It needed a family, and so did the rest of those baby animals. So I was just calling out to people and looking for people that would come and take a baby animal home with them. And I was honest, these are wild animals. They're always going to be wild. They're not going to be good pets, but it's better than, this is your opportunity to what? I guess to make a difference for these creatures that don't have any, they're not good pets. They're not important, but they're important to me. And I think it's pretty clear where those dreams are coming from. And I think I just received my commission. That's my mission. I'm on a mission from God to gather up worthless fruit that fell before its time and make something out of it, and to take charge of a bucket full of abandoned babies and find people that can care for them, hand them off. I'm not a fantastic nurturer, but I'm a dreamer. And I'm good at talking. So, I don't know what that's all about, but it's part of this thing that's been going on in my life, and it has been really just coming to a head in the past few months. This past year has been just huge in terms of I've felt something coming for a long time, and now I know that I'm in a fruit-bearing stage of my own development, and I'm not just talking about my kids. There's something that's been developing in me, and I could put labels on it and describe it to you, but it doesn't really matter for the purposes of the conversation right now. Things are coming together, and I'm already seeing the fruit of that, and I know that it's good, and that really encourages me, because things are happening now, and I see it happening with my friends as well. Anyway, the other thing that I wanted to talk about is, I mentioned my dreams about my future, and that might be kind of, concerning or spooky to some of you guys, but others of you can relate right away, because it's not actually an uncommon thing for people to have ESPs. There's more to the world than what can be nailed down with our current understanding of science, of of time and space and of the senses. And whether it's in the Bible, well documented, or through personal anecdotes, if people are comfortable around each other and somebody takes the first move, we might find out that we're not all crazy. And if I am crazy, that's fine. I really am harmless. But you might be surprised to hear that I haven't really considered why. What's the purpose of these dreams that I have where I'm experiencing my own future ahead of time? And they've served a purpose for me. They give me a great sense of destiny because of course, I'm talking about like all the time. I'm just experiencing my own life ahead of time. And it's just in mundane ways, everyday stuff, and then things that have some significance. Every job I've ever worked, and I've dreamed about every house that I've ever lived in, and I dreamed about my wife. I dreamed about both of my daughters before they were born. I don't remember dreaming about the boy before he was born, but maybe he was supposed to be more of a surprise. Anyway, I haven't really thought about why I have these dreams. And I think I figured it out. Because a long time ago, right after I got saved, I was fatherless. And I understood that God is a father to the fatherless. So I said, all right, God, you're my father. And if you'll be my father, I'll be your son. And he has raised me. He has been a father to me in so many ways, in so many moments. And one of the best descriptions that I've heard of a father, I can't tell you who said this, but the quote is, a father is the man who introduces you to the world. And I thought that was pretty neat. And I view my own this gift of prophecy that I have, where I get to see my own life ahead of time, and I get special insight into things. And I am not proud of this. It just is. It's part of who I am. He's introducing me in a way that only he can. He goes in front of me, and yes, he prepares the way, but he also introduces me. This is Casey. And he shows me things, and I know they're going to happen, and he gives me an introduction in a way that the natural world never could. And it's another one of those ways that he is the closest friend I've ever had. And nothing will ever take him away from me. And I love him. And he cares for me every day. So with that, we are taking a vacation into the fields of Boaz. And the book of Ruth starts on a downer note, to the extent that a mother is going to change her name from Naomi, which means my delight, to Mara, which means bitterness, like poison. Because her life is bitter. And we're going to watch her get poisoned here. Paraphrasing heavily, Ruth, chapter 1. Now it came to pass, in the days when the judges ruled, that there was a famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab. So this Jewish guy is escaping the famine, trying to survive in the land of Moab. And this is where David, King David, gets his ties to the land of Moab. These are connections that he will maintain and appreciate and rely on in the future, because King David is not born yet. This is during the times of the judges. So this man, he and his wife and his 2 sons are in Moab now, seeking shelter, refugees from the famine. And keep in mind that a famine is never a lack of resources alone. It is always accompanied with a lack of compassion, a lack of friendship, a lack of generosity. Why? Because there's never a worldwide famine. There are always neighbors who have and say, I won't make a deal with you. I'm keeping what's mine, and you deal with your lot. Look at Revelation, when famine stalks the earth, along with death and war, and the false ruler killing and destroying. And what is the catchphrase of famine? It's the price of goods. What is it, a quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and see that you don't touch the oil and the wine, something along those lines. So the luxury goods are there. Oil and wine are available for the people that they've been reserved for. And a day's wages are the price of subsistence diet. The famine is of oppression more than scarcity. Scarcity might be present, but the oppression is what makes it a famine. And during the times of the judges, there was plenty of that to go around, as well as the failure of kindness, social structure, faithfulness, generosity, wealth. You get the idea. These are degenerate times, as much as they are unfortunate times. Hashtag relatable. I think honestly, we're coming out of it. I really think we're coming out of a dark time in local history during my life, and things are turning around, but that doesn't mean that they tend toward that. Recovery is something worth fighting for. And the war of recovery embraces kindness and goodness and despises wickedness. Makes no excuse. The name of the man was Elimelech, and Elimelech is, it means God is my king. It's a good name. I hope he lived up to it. But he was in some rough circumstances, and he's not going to make it very far through this story. The name of his wife, Naomi. We talked about her. And the names of his two sons, are you ready? Mahlon and Kilion. And Mahlon means sickly. I told you I'm allergic to everything. I'm allergic to lots of things. And I also had almost a 40-degree curvature of my spine. I was crooked. I had major spine surgery, and it was down to like 18 degrees, and I was told that it always gets worse as you get older, but I deeply appreciate getting adjusted and being far less crippled than I was before I had some major surgery, and I had the joy of being able to start putting on muscle mass for the first time, walking straight, and I have such a desire to be healthy, because it doesn't come naturally to me. I'm something of a Mahlon myself. And the other son, Kilion, and his name, it's translated pining here. So this was a miserable child. It's not going to go well for these two kids. They don't last long. I guess long enough to get married. But, they married young back then. So, we don't know how long they made it. But they're not going to make it out of Moab. So let's get back into the story. Okay. They were Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. Right? So that's their family. That's the area where they were. And they came into the country of Moab. And they continued there. So they're staying there for a while. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died. And she was left, and her two sons. And they took wives from the women of Moab. Now, those of you that know the requirements for Jewish guys and gals back in those days, this wasn't necessarily forbidden. I'm not sure what the rules were for Moabites. I think that they could marry in, but these Moabite women would have been expected to abandon their former culture and commit to a new life in Israel as a Jew. And yet they're not in Israel here. These are young men who are away from home. And it does not appear that these two wives really did abandon their identity up until we'll see something happen here as the story progresses. The name of the one wife was Orpah, and the other was Ruth. And this book being named Ruth is a pretty strong hint that Ruth is exceptional. Orpah is translated gazelle, so we've got an idea. She probably, had some beautiful legs or whatever, and good movement on her, And Ruth is a friend. I like that name. she lived up to her name. And they dwelled there about 10 years. So we know how long those boys were there. 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion died also. Both of them. That's rough. Yeah, that's half a sentence in the Bible. But that's rough for Naomi, for their mom. And the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband. Alright, they left. Place they could not come back from. They died. And then she arose with her daughters-in-law that she might return from the country of Moab, because she had heard in the country of Moab how that the Lord had visited his people in giving them bread. And I think Bethlehem means the house of bread. So there might be a little bit of a pun here, and indeed the word for bread is lachem. So there is a pun. And visited here. This is like a visit from the doctor, right? God is rescuing. God is healing here. That's that word visited. And if we want to look it up, it is pakad. Which, yeah, he shows up and makes things happen. All right. So she went out of the place where she was, her and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. And Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go, return each of you to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me." It's interesting that she says return to your mother's house. Often this is a very because I haven't mentioned it yet, in case you hadn't picked up on it, this is possibly the girliest book of the Bible. This is all about the girls. A lot of the Jewish references to a young woman or a woman returning to her family home would refer to it as her father's house. After all, dad's in charge. There's conditions where you would go back to your father's house, like if things don't work out in your marriage. And just here, Naomi says, return to your mother's house. This is all between the girls here. Maybe things are different in Moab. I don't know. Maybe women were more in charge of the house, or maybe that's just what she had in sight here. And it might be a little bit of a hint at just how this one really is, ladies. This is your book. This book is not called the Book of Boaz, even though he's going to be a hero later on. This is the Hallmark version of the story, okay? This is the ultimate Hallmark story. It's the right. This is the Hallmark. Sometimes they're not even daring enough to say, the harsh setup for this book, but the heroic man is going to show up, I promise you, and he's going to be a real hunk. So the Lord deal kindly with you, Naomi says, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant you that you may find rest, each of you in the house of a husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. So she's blessing these girls and sending them away because she has nothing to offer them. And they said to her, surely we will return with you to your people. So both of them say, no, we'll go with you. And Naomi said, go Go again, turn again, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn again, my daughters, go your way, because I'm too old to have a husband. And if I should say I have hope, if I should have a husband also tonight, and should bear sons, would you wait for them till they were grown? Then you girls would be old, right? It'd be a little past your prime. It's just the time has run out. There's no hope, Naomi is saying. Would you stay for them from having husbands? No, my daughters, because it grieves me much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. Let me tell you something. There's two things. There's two reasons that I'm committed to not sinning. And I'm not sinless, but I have become committed. And I can tell the difference. I'm horrified by the ministers that harbor sin in their lives. I'm horrified by what they do to justify it, to keep it secret. I'm horrified by the guilt that they bear, the dishonesty that they embrace, and the disaster it brings on their ministry. And I want to protect my family from what happens as a man, as a leader of my house. When I make God tear down the wall of protection around my house because of what I'm doing. Naomi blames herself for the disaster that came on her family. And there's an extent to which she might be right. I don't know. And there's an extent to which it might be her husband's fault. The Bible does not make it clear. But this is how Naomi feels. She made this happen. I don't know whether she's right in saying that. I wouldn't blame her. But when I bring trouble to my family, I do blame myself. And I know I see it happen. What can he do? They lifted up their voice, and they wept again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye. But Ruth glued herself to her. And she said, so Naomi says, behold, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return you after your sister-in-law. Go catch up to her. Get out of here. I got nothing for you, lady. And Ruth said, don't try to make me leave. Don't even ask me to leave or to return from following you. Because where you go, I will go. And where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people. And your God, my God. Remember that thing I talked about? Ruth just did it. She didn't shave her head, but she's committed. Rituals are there for us. Symbols are there for us. God cares about your motivations. God cares about your intentions. And God cares about your actions. And He sets up things to teach us and to coax us. But when your heart's in the right place, God knows it, and He tends to make it obvious, and it's awesome. Where you die, I will die, she says, and there I will be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death separate you and me. You know what? I think Ruth is a friend. So when Naomi sees that her mind was set on going with her, she stopped trying to convince her otherwise. So the two girls go till they came to Bethlehem. And it came to pass, when they were come to Bethlehem, that all the city was moved about them. And they said, "Is this Naomi?" I think she changed. I think she changed over those years. And you know, I'm horrible at recognizing people who have gone from the kids I went to high school with to the adults that are my peers. I can't make my brain does not work that way. But I think a lot changed about Naomi, and I think her face told the story of her trouble when she came home. And Naomi says to them, "Don't call me Naomi anymore. Call me Mara, because the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me." And she didn't say she's bitter. She said that she's been drinking a bitter cup. "I went out full," she says, "and the Lord has brought me home again empty. Why then do you call me Naomi, seeing the Lord has testified against me?" See, she blames herself here. "And the Almighty has afflicted me." So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned out of the country of Moab. And they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of the barley harvest. And Naomi had a kinsman. What kind of a kinsman? Now we'll find out. Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a hero, a wealthy man, of the family of Elimelech. His name? Boaz. Boaz means strength. I didn't look it up. I like this guy. There's a pillar in the temple. Was it the tabernacle? Maybe both. It's called Boaz. It's just there. Why is it there? Something to teach. It's a symbol. A pillar. This man is a pillar. And Ruth, the Moabitess, said to Naomi, "Let me go now to the field and glean ears of corn, says the King James. Right? This is barley. Like we said, this is during the barley harvest. So what's gleaning? There is a law in the law for Israel that they received from Moses. God told it to him. Moses wrote it down, taught it to the people. The law of Moses. And it says, when you harvest a field, don't harvest all the way to the edge, and if you drop anything, leave it for the gleaner, the poor, the fatherless, people that need the help. They come, they work in a field that they don't own, they get food for themselves, and they walk away with it for free. They got to show up and do the work, but they didn't have to plant. They didn't have to care for the crops. They get a piece, they get the fringes, and they survive. That is what is owed to the helpless, to the poor, to the fatherless, to the needy. To withhold that from them, to optimize your yield, or to even gather it yourself, is to rob the poor, according to the law of Moses. But whose idea is that law? It's God's idea. It's based on his principles. It's based on his character. That means it's not just Jewish. He happens to have communicated it to the Jews, but it came from his heart. That's gleaning. And Ruth said to Naomi, "Let me now go to the field and glean after him whose sight I shall find grace." So she says, look, I'm going to go out there, and if somebody's going to be nice to me, I'll glean from their field. She's acknowledging here as a Moabitess that maybe the owner of that field is going to say, go away. You don't belong here. Because those people were human back then, just like we're human today. It's not in our nature to embrace people that are outside of our group. So go ahead and defy that, because that's not God's way. God's way is to go out of his way to embrace those that need embracing. And an opportunity for kindness and friendship is worth embracing. And Naomi says to her, "Go, my daughter." And she went, and she came and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and she happened to show up on a part of the field that belonged to Boaz, who, by the way, is kin of Elimelech. Why has that been mentioned twice already? The law of the kinsman redeemer. Another law of Moses. God's idea. Moses wrote it down, taught it to the people. If your family gets wiped out, financially or physically, you lose your property, you have to sell it off, you sell off the land that is yours by birthright, your kinsman can buy it back. If a husband dies without an heir to pass on his family name to, a kinsman can raise up offspring in the name of his dead brother. And those children will belong to the family of his dead brother, carry on the family name. It was important in those days, and it's important in these days, and it's essential to the inheritance of Jesus Christ that this law is established. And here we see it playing out. And the man Onan did evil, not in denying offspring to his wife, but in maliciously complying to the law of the kinsman redeemer while denying offspring to his wife because they would not be his. Selfishness, deceit. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said to the reapers, "The Lord be with you." And they answered him, "The Lord bless you." Then said Boaz to his servant who was set over the reapers. This is a nameless servant here. A lot of times, the Spirit of God is what's the word? It's typified. If you want to start making connections, I'm recording. Be nice and quiet. But be out here with me. I like you. I'm very proud of you.
You're gonna cut this part out, right?
Nah, maybe some of it. You were shining today, kid. I loved your videos. They're very clever.
Yeah, I put in a lot of humor to my videos today.
Alright. Then Boaz says to his servant that was set over the reapers, right? The reapers, they're the professionals. They're going out there, clearing the field, bringing in the harvest. And this is real work, I tell you. But it was a lot more work coming up to this point, so the reaping is joyful. But you're singing and sweating. He says, "Whose woman is this?" And the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, and by the way, this is end times stuff. The end times is the time of the harvest. We're in the harvest. We're in the end times today. We're not in the end of the end times, but we're in the harvest. There is a harvest. And Jesus said that he is the kernel of grain that dies so there can be a great harvest. And there's a great harvest. The servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, "This is the Moabite, a young woman that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab." So these girls have already been talked about. He's like, "Hey, that's that Moabite woman that we were talking about." And she said, the gossip has already gone around. And she says now, after she's been introduced, "I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves." So she came, and she has continued even from the morning until now, that she stayed a little bit in the house. So the foreman, doesn't he sound like a foreman here? She showed up, she asked to glean, and she worked all day, except for a little bit. She took a break in the house for a while. And then Boaz says to Ruth, "Do you hear, my daughter? Do not go glean in another field. And don't go from here, but abide here close by my girls," right? So he's got girls working, and he says, You stay with the girls I got here. Don't go anywhere else. Why? Boaz is kind. He knows that she's safe with him. Don't go anywhere else. You're safe here. That's a wonderful thing to be able to say to someone. Let your eyes be on the field, that they reap, and go after them. So watch and go after my own workers. Right? He's saying, like, you walk right behind the people who are working. Have I not charged the young men that they will not touch you? Right? This is the Bible. This is Israel. This is the time of the judges. He's telling her that she's safe here. And he specifically told the guys, you don't touch that woman. And when you're thirsty, go get a drink. And drink what the young men have drawn, right? This is back in the days where if you wanted water, you had to go get it. And typically, the important people would be drinking the water that the less important people, or the lower down, would bring. It is a menial task to carry water. And here he says, don't go get your own water. My boys have brought water to the field for the workers. You drink that water. And fresh drinkable water is something that Jesus talked about a lot. He called it living water. Then she fell on her face, and she bowed down to the ground, and she said to him, why have I found grace in your eyes, that you should notice me, since I'm a stranger? And Boaz answered and said to her, it was completely taught to me, all that you have done to your mother-in-law since the death of your husband. He is impressed with her character, and he has been looking for a chance to show her how proud he is, the respect he has for what she did. Already, the kindness that she showed, the commitment to her mom, the mom that she adopted, and how you left your father and your mother and the land of your nativity, and you've come to a people that you know not up to now. Yeah, she didn't know these people yet. She's going to become more familiar with them because she has a place here now. The Lord recompense your work, and a full reward be given you of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings you are come to trust. And the wings here also refers to the garment that is their traditional garment, the fringes of the garment. And here it's translated skirt, right? Literally the wings of a bird, but also the fringes of the traditional Jewish garment that God told them the design of. The exact kind of garment that Jesus was wearing when a woman who had been suffering with an issue of blood and spent all her money on doctors and only got worse, thought, if I can just touch the fringe of his garment, I will be healed. And this crazy woman, with her crazy idea, was healed.
Wow.
And instead of keeping it a secret, Jesus brought her into the open and honored her. probably shortly after terrifying her by bringing her into the open. But isn't that just the way of the Lord? Boaz is doing something like this, isn't he? There's a connection here. Then she said, "Let me find favor in your sight, my lord," right, sir, "for you have comforted me, and for that you have spoken friendly to your handmaid," she says, right? She's putting herself under him in authority, right? She's showing deference here and respect and humbleness. "Though I be not like to one of your handmaidens." And Boaz says to her, "At mealtime, come here and eat of the bread and dip in the vinegar." And she sat beside the reapers. And he gave her parched grain, and she ate, and she had enough, and then she left. He handed her food there. When you sit and eat someone in this culture, you're safe. You're accepted. You're one of them. There is a traitor psalm that says the man, how does it go? My own close friend has what? I can't remember. But the betrayal of a friend that he went up to the holy assembly with, that he ate with, and he's risen up against me. Jesus and Judas. And here, Boaz is passing off snacks, lunchtime food, to this young woman. And he's going to be faithful. He's going to stay good. Let's watch this play out. "And when she rose up to glean, Boaz commanded the young men, saying, 'Let her glean even among the sheaves, and don't tell her not to.'" So maybe she doesn't understand how gleaning works, but you're not supposed to just pick up what the harvesters are harvesting. And he said, "Let her have the sheaves that you've bound up, that you've gathered. And make sure you let some handfuls fall on purpose for her and leave them so that she can glean them. And then don't get after her for it." Secret honor. Secret generosity. Carved into the Bible forever. So she gleaned in the field until evening and beat out what she had. So you've got to knock the husks and the useless junk off of the grain. So she worked all day, and then she processed the grain, and it was about an ephah of barley. And she took it up and she went into the city, or she's got to walk all the way home now with the load of grain on her back. And her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned, and she brought out and she gave to her the leftovers. And she had enough. So, Mom here is eating the leftovers from that meal that Ruth shared with Boaz, and it was enough for her. Now, I've seen these little women that eat like birds, but Ruth was working hard all day, and she had enough, and she had enough to share. And that's the way it is with the Lord. He gives you enough to share, even in even in the way his abundance works. In dire situations, he gives you enough to share. Not every time, right? Naomi and Ruth went through some really tough times. But God is coming in to rescue them. And he's giving a man an opportunity to be pivotal in that. And her mother-in-law says to her, "Where did you glean today? And where were you working? Blessed be the man that took notice of you." She knows what's going on. This is not her first rodeo. She knows somebody noticed this young woman. And she told her mother-in-law who she worked with. And Naomi says, Ruth says, "The man's name that I worked with today is Boaz." And Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "Blessed be he of the Lord, who has not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead." This is how she's revealing that Boaz is a kinsman here. You get that? He's showing kindness both to Ruth and to that wasted generation that he's going to rescue here by being the kinsman redeemer. And Naomi said to her, "The man is a near kin to us, one of our next kinsmen." Oh, what do you mean one of? You mean there's more? There's more. And Ruth the Moabitess said, "He said to me also, 'You stay close by the young men until they have finished my entire harvest.'" So she's been called back for work the next day. She's going to work the whole season. And Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, "It is good, my daughter, that you go out with his girls, that they meet you not in any other field." She says, "Yeah, you go ahead and stick close there. You got a good thing going on." So she stayed close by the maidens of Boaz, right? These are the girls that work in his field, to glean to the end of barley harvest and wheat harvest. And she dwelt with her mother-in-law. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, will I not seek rest for you, that it may be well with you?" Mama's up to something. Naomi knows what's up, and she has known what's up for a while. And when the time is ripe, the work is done, it's just about time for fun. I mean, picture this. The whole barley harvest, the whole wheat harvest. You had a look at the work these people are doing, bending over and scooping up, cutting down, stripping off the seeds, beating out the husks, separating the wheat from the chaff. The whole harvest. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of sweating. It's hard physical labor. And it's time to focus on the work. But now it's getting to be not time to focus entirely on the work of the harvest. The harvest, in fact, for those of you that are mystics like me, the harvest is fully brought in. And then Naomi goes, "Listen up, Ruth. It is time for phase 2. And now, is not Boaz of our kindred, with whose maidens you were? Behold, he winnows barley tonight in the threshing floor." So he's out winnowing the barley tonight. Get all pretty, wash yourself, anoint, right? This would be with perfume, and put on your raiment on you. Raiment is not work clothes. Raiment is the nice clothes. And get you down to the floor. But sneaky. But do not make yourself known to the man. Sneak in there. What a plan. Until he's done eating and drinking, right? He's eating dinner with the guys, drinking wine with the guys. They're having a good time. They've been working hard. And they've been blessed in the harvest. It is worth celebrating. And it will be, when he lies down, note the place where he lies. And then go in and uncover his feet and lay down, and he will tell you what to do. Bold, but also discreet. Nobody's going to be able to talk bad about Boaz. Whatever decision he makes. If the answer is yes to a question that has not been asked, then he and Ruth will be the first people to know. And if the answer is no, he and Ruth will be the first people to know. And nobody else needs to know. So taking the blanket off his feet, he's going to wake up. And he's going to wake up, and there's going to be a woman there. And that woman is dressed in her nice clothes. And she's wearing perfume. And she's all clean. She's a bride, ready for her husband. And it is in the dead of night. Watchman, what time is the night? It's in the dead of night that the bride offers herself to her husband, and his decision is going to be to rescue her. And it is after the harvest is brought in. And Ruth says to Naomi, all that you said to me, I will do. And she went down to the threshing floor, and she did according to all that her mother-in-law told her to do. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, this guy's buzzing, okay? Keep that in mind. It's not a big deal. He didn't mess this up. He didn't have a problem. This man knew how to get a buzz on and not sin. So he goes to lay down at the end of the pile, and she came softly, pulled the blanket off his feet, and laid down. She is not propositioning him for sex. She's offering marriage. And it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid, and he turned, and behold, a woman laying at his feet. And he says, "Who are you? It's dark. The light of the stars, and nothing else. Who are you?" This is not the only dimly lit bride of the Bible. Do you know who I'm talking about? The two sisters. First the one that wasn't wanted, and then the one who was. In the dark. "Who are you?" And she answered, "I'm Ruth, your girl. Spread therefore your garment over me, because you are a near kinsman." And this is the same word, kanaf, that he blessed her with earlier when he said God spread his wings over you. And here she says, you spread your wings over me. Boaz is invited to fulfill God's blessing of protection completely in the way that he began to do, out of admiration for her kindness that she showed to her own mom, the mother of her dead husband. And he said, blessed be you of the Lord, my daughter, for you have showed more kindness later on than at the beginning, inasmuch you didn't go after a young man, whether poor or rich. He's saying, look, I know you could have whatever man you wanted. You're fantastic. You're gorgeous. Appreciate you choosing me. I know that feeling. And now he says, my daughter, fear not. I will do to you all that you require, because all the city of my people knows that you are a virtuous woman. That's her real treasure. She's a good woman. And now it's true that I am your near kinsman, although there is one nearer than I. And here we get the twist, right? M. Night Shyamalan wrote this part of the Bible. There is another man who has first dibs on Ruth. So we gotta resolve that. So stay tonight, and in the morning, if he will perform to you the part of a kinsman, fine, let him do. But if he does not want to do the part of a kinsman to you, then I will. On God. So, lay down and sleep till morning, and she lay at his feet. These people did not bang, and I feel like the Bible would not have said this if they had. They were waiting for marriage here, even though this really appears to be a saucy, and I am sure a humid encounter. They retained their dignity. They trusted in the process that they were committed to. And she rose up before one could know another, and he says, let it not be known that a woman came to the floor. Right? So they're keeping this discreet. And he also said, bring the veil that you have and hold it. And when she held it, he measured out 6 measures of barley and had her carry it, and she went back to the city. 6 measures of barley, what's that mean? That is every work day that you're allowed to work. He is going to do all the work. That's the message he's sending home with her. And she's carrying that message where? In her wedding veil. And Jesus Christ, the husband of the church, will do all the work. And he has bound up his promise in the bride's veil. And she's hidden for a while. And then she's not hidden. She's with him. And when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, who are you, my daughter? And she told her all that the man had done. And she said, these 6 measures of barley he gave me, because he said to me, don't go empty back to your mother-in-law. Then she said, sit still, my daughter, until you know how the matter will fall here, it says in the King James, right? You just sit and see how this plays out. because the man will not rest until he has finished the thing today. So Naomi got the message. Boaz is going to make it happen. Then Boaz went up to the gate, and he sat down there, and behold, the kinsman that Boaz had spoken about came by. Notice how he's not named here. We don't want to name and shame this guy. Let's just despise him for a while. He's not worthy. Unto whom he said, "Ho, such a one! Come over here, sit down." And the man turned aside and sat down. So this is the beginning of a court proceeding here. This is a legal proceeding in the city gate. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city, and he said, "Sit you down here," and they sat down. So these people are hopping too. Boaz is an important guy. There is no delay for the legislature here. You know how it is with legislature. It can take a while. Dude, Boaz is making it happen. These people are hopping too. And he says to the kinsman, Naomi, that came back out of the country of Moab, is selling a parcel of land that was our brother Elimelech's. And I thought to advise you, saying, buy it here in front of everyone, before the elders of my people. If you will redeem, redeem. But if you don't want to, let me know, so that I can know, because there is none other to redeem it other than you and me. And the man says, "Oh, I will." Then Boaz says, "Well, the same day that you buy the field from Naomi, you must also buy of Ruth, the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead on his inheritance," right? So you can't just buy this land, he says. You've got to marry Ruth to raise up a family in the place of her dead husband. That's the way the kinsman redeemer. And the kinsman says, I can't, because it would mar my own inheritance, he says. He says, look, as much as I'd love to help out here, that would mess up what I already have going on. I don't know what he's got going on. I don't know if he's already married or if he's prejudiced against a Moabite. But he says, look, it's just not going to work out for me. You know how it is. And then he says, redeem you, my right to yourself. So, I'm going to decline and you go ahead. 'Cause I can't. So he's actually not eligible. And I'm going to take his word for that. Because in the book of Revelation, which with I'm obsessed, in fact, the next chapter that I'm in my current walkthrough of the book, no man is found that can open the sixth sealed, 7 sealed scroll? Boy, I ought to study that. I should know these things. No man is found in heaven, on the earth, or under the earth that is able, that is eligible, that is appropriate to open the scroll, or even to look on it. And John starts bawling. And I know a John, and I think he's a John. And I could picture that young man bawling at this. Because John knew what was going on. The title deed for the world was being passed around. And nobody could even look into it. Until the Lamb of God stepped up. And then, well, that's another story. Now, This was the manner in the former time in Israel concerning redeeming and about changing. To confirm all things, a man would take off his shoe and give it to the other. And this was how they made a testimony of the transfer of ownership. So the kinsman says to Boaz, "Buy for you." And he takes off his shoe. And Boaz said to the elders and to all the people, "You are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and all that was Kilion's and Machlon's from the hand of Naomi." So a debt was owed. A price had to be paid to redeem. And a commitment for life was made by the Redeemer to bring new life, to conquer death. And it was done out of kindness. And it was done with a deep appreciation of the bride's commitment. To whom? To the mother of the dead, who would go on to watch a new family blossom and call her grandma. Moreover, Ruth, the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my bride, to raise up the name of the dead on his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brothers and from the gate of his place. This dead man's going to have kids with his name on them. You are witnesses this day. And all the people, they were in the gate, and the elders said, "We are. And the Lord make the woman that is come into your house like Rachel and like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel. And do you worthily in Ephrathah, and be famous. And but you better believe it, be famous in Bethlehem." You know, I think they're famous outside of Bethlehem too, on account of them being in the Holy Bible. "And let your house..." See, the other blessings were good. This one's a bit odd. "Let your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah." That was a gross story. Why would they mention that? Because it's about time for that family line to be redeemed, to be eligible for temple worship. In the generation of King David, who has not yet been born. Did you know that David's forefathers were withheld from temple life because of Tamar and Judah bearing a child outside of marriage? David sat at the end of a curse that was brought on his family by bad behavior. Judah's bad behavior. Tamar found a bad answer that was better than what he was doing, and it caused trouble. And it ended with David, a chain breaker. "Let your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, of the seed which the Lord will give you of this young woman." So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. And when he went in to her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. Notice how the Bible's not ashamed of describing the truth And when the women said to Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, which has not left you this day without a kinsman, that his name may be famous in Israel. And he will be to you a restorer of your life, and a nourisher of your old age. For your daughter-in-law, which loves you, which is better to you than 7 sons, has borne him. And Naomi took the child and laid on her chest, and she nursed it. Grandma's nursing the baby. What an odd miracle. And the women, her neighbors, gave the child a name, saying, There is a son born to Naomi. And they called his name Obed. He is the father of Ishai, the father of David. Obed, serving. Let's see. Ishai, I possess. And David, is that not the name of the beloved? Serving, I possess the beloved. To Jesus, you are loved. You are his bride. And he serves, even though he is the one that's worthy of being served. And as the bride of Christ, serving, you possess the beloved. You've become one. And both of you are giving. Sounds like a happy marriage. Oh, and there's a genealogy here. And I'm not going to get into it, because all these names have meaning, and yet, this is the Midnight Bible, and it's getting close to 1 o'clock, and you all should probably get some sleep too. So let's wrap this up. Now these are the generations of Perez. Perez begat Hezron. Hezron begat Ram. Ram begat Amminadab. Amminadab begat Nashon. Nashon begat Salmon. Salmon begat Boaz. Boaz begat Obed. Good night, Guppy. Obed begat Ishai. And Ishai begat David. There's a story in those names. I'm not sure what it is. I gotta look them up. But that's a story for another time.